Hello, MotoAmerica fans. It's time for another episode of Off Track with Carruthers and Bice. You'll laugh, you'll cry, and you may even learn something from this unlikely pair and their special guest. The mic is yours, Paul and Sean.
Hello, MotoAmerica fans. This is Paul Carruthers, and this is our weekly podcast, Off Track with Carruthers and Bice. As always, I'm joined by Sean Bice. He's a little bit east of me. We promise not to talk about the weather anymore, so I can't ask him how the weather is. I'm going to have to look it up myself, which is going to add another chore to my day, Sean.
Yeah, exactly. Good.
So today we've got Teagg Hobbs on the line, and he's got some exciting news. Actually, it's not news anymore because we leaked it out already, and the press release went out, so it's not news anymore. But Teagg Hobbs will be racing a Suzuki ECSTAR 750 for the Vision Wheel M4 ECSTAR Suzuki team in the 2023 MotoAmerica Supersport Championship. Now, this is a pretty cool deal for him. He's been with us for a while. He raced Junior Cup, and then the last 3 years he's been in Twins Cup. And in those 3 years, he finished ninth in the championship in 2020, had his best year in 2021 when he was fourth in the championship and also won a couple of races. And then last year, he was seventh in the championship. And he had some second places, but no victories. But he's been around a while. He's one of our favorites. He's a nice kid. He's always happy-go-lucky around the paddock. And obviously, he's got a lot of talent and rides a motorcycle really well. So this will be his first season of Supersport racing, which is kind of a big step from Twins Cup. He elected to go to Twins Cup from Junior Cup, which a lot of our guys seem to be doing now. But this will, like I said, will be his first season of Supersport, and we're looking forward to seeing how he will do. Obviously, the team believes in him, and they're usually pretty good about picking out talent. So, Teagg, how are you this morning, and how excited are you about the prospect of 2023 and the new team and the new class and the new bike and all that new stuff?
Yeah. Good morning, guys. I'm doing good this morning. Another day in the Sunshine State, but I'm over the moon about this opportunity. I'm really excited. It's ever since I started racing, my whole goal looking forward, I just wanted to be a full-time super sport racer, on a big team. And ever since being a little kid going to the AMA races, I was watching guys like Martin Cardenas, Elena Myers, Corey West, Dane Westby. They're all battling out in the super sport class, and this is huge. So for my family, for me, for all the people behind me, the companies that help me out, it's a big deal for all of us because we put in so much effort and so much sacrifice to make it happen, and it feels really good to go into the start of the year knowing we're kind of there. Obviously there's goals beyond that. I want to win a championship. I want to win some races. I want to put up some performances, but you kind of got to sit and smell the roses a little bit, and it feels really good to be in the position I am this year.
Teagg, I really loved what you wrote on your Facebook page. You said something about since you were 8 years old, you remember looking at that, the Team Hammer team, which is now Vision Wheel M4 ECSTAR Suzuki, but you looked up to them and kind of had a goal that you wanted to race for that team. Is that correct?
Yeah. I used to go to Daytona when my dad was racing, and just watch that team operate, and always get the autographs from their riders, and it was just like, man, that's the dream. So to be having those conversations with the Ulriches about riding for them this year, and to make it all come together, it's a dream come true, truly.
It's really cool, Teagg, about how many riders come from, Northeast, let's say Northeast, and right. I know Southeast has got a lot in the West, but it's amazing how many from like literally New Hampshire. I know I go way back to a guy named Gerald Rothman who raced for Yoshimura Suzuki. He was a club racer at Loudon years ago. And then, of course, David Sadowski, who, won the Daytona 200 a while back. and has since unfortunately passed away. But you got Ben involved, and you, Shane Narbone, kind of in and out a little bit with us, but you and Ben have been involved a lot, and it's quite a legacy, isn't it, about that area, that track, and where you grew up.
Yeah, it's really cool. Guys like PJ Jacobson, I know he's from the New York area. James Rispoli grew up in New Hampshire.
Yep.
A little bit. Obviously Ben Galati, he's from New Hampshire with me, and we grew up racing together. And it was great to be his teammate last year in Twins Cup. That was really cool for us. But now the guys up at NEMRR, the local race series up there in Loudon, New Hampshire, and Penguin Racing School, Eric Wood and John Grush, they're kind of bringing some kids into the series, and mentoring kids throughout the whole process, all the way from novice racers to professional MotoAmerica goers. So it's really cool what they're doing. They're bringing a lot of kids from the Northeast to the top stage, and that's awesome. That's what the sport needs, and it's really cool to be a part of it. And it's just a good deal.
Now take us through this announcement a little bit, because honestly, Suzuki threw us a little bit of a curveball when they put out that release, and we had talked to you, and you were thinking that your announcement was going to be made that day. So when the release came out, Paul and I were talking about it, and I was surprised that they only mentioned initially the two kind of incumbent riders in Tyler Scott and Richie Escalante. Right. And I only knew from you that you were going to be announced. So it threw us off, because it was, if you read between the lines, you thought, well, is this it? And, it's never been that for that team. They've always seemed to have a couple of super sport riders, a couple of superbike riders, and even Twins Cup riders in the past for them. So when the release came out about you and Tony, I guess I knew it was coming, so I wasn't going to say I was relieved, but did they tell you it was going to be this kind of two-step process, or were you not sure how the announcement was going to be put out?
I knew the general time frame when announcements were going to take place. I knew it was going to be that Tuesday to Thursday of last week. I thought I was going to be announced on Monday or Tuesday, I believe. And then I saw the announcement, Tyler Scott, Richie Escalante, they re-signed with the team. And then I got notified, hey, we're doing a separate announcement for you and our other rider. But it was awesome. To be announced with, obviously, Tony Elias coming back to the Superbike series, that was really cool. I think that's huge for the team, and that's big for Suzuki, and it's really cool to see that guy, come out of retirement after a few years and go race with guys like Bobier coming back to the series. Heron, Gagne. It's going to be cool to watch. But no, it was cool to get announced with him, and I just, looking back on it, one announcement was for their riders coming back for the season, and one announcement was for newcomers. So it makes sense.
And it's kind of cool that you get announced with a world champion, because there's people like in Europe, for example, that might not have read the release or looked at the release if it wasn't for the fact that Tony was in it. So it's kind of a good thing and a bad thing, but I think it's more of a good thing.
Yeah, I got announced with a guy who beat Rossi. Not many people can say that.
That's right.
Did you know that Tony was going to be rejoining the team beforehand, ahead of time?
I didn't. No.
Wow.
No.
That's wild.
And so the deal with Team Hammer came together pretty recently. So I had no idea. But.
Cool. So tell us just real quickly about sort of the process. And I want to go back a little bit, because you've established some groundwork with I'm going to say Team Hammer, although it's, the team, that's the kind of organization behind it. But I know that Team Hammer builds, leases, sells bikes. Obviously Team Hammer is involved in this electronic throttle thing with the GSXR 750. So they have a lot going on from that realm too. But you've had a relationship, I'm going to say, with Team Hammer for quite a while, and with John and with Chris. And did that lead to this situation this year with this being on the team?
Yeah, no doubt. So the first year in Twins Cup, I rode a Team Hammer built Suzuki SV650, and it was actually the bike that Alex Dumas won the Twins Cup championship on. And being able to ride that bike, I was able to build a little bit of a relationship with Chris and John Ulrich and Team Hammer, and that's kind of what started it all. A few years on that bike, I loved that motorcycle, and it taught me so much about how to ride a bike. And working with them was awesome. They're top tier team. So coming into this season, they know a little bit about me. I know a little bit about them. I love the Suzuki. They know what I can do on a Suzuki, and I don't think I'd be in the position I am today, if it wasn't for, pulling the trigger and working with them a few years ago.
Okay, so let's look at this Twins Cup career a little bit, because in 2020, as I mentioned earlier, you finished 9th in the championship. Then 2021, you kind of had a breakout season and you finished 4th in the championship. But like I said earlier, also you won some races. And then last year, you didn't continue to improve. You slipped to 7th in the championship. Now I know there's some circumstances that led to that. What in summary, what kind of happened last year that didn't keep you on that same path?
So the year started out really good. Daytona, we were on the podium. Atlanta, we were on the podium. We were fighting for wins, and then the 4th race of the year at RoadAmerica, I got hurt, unfortunately, and that just set the next 1 or 2 rounds back. I was riding in a little bit of pain. I couldn't really find myself on the bike again. We were dealing with a few issues, as far as making the bike work with me instead of against me. But then that set us back in the championship. And at the end of the year, the last 2 or 3 rounds, we started to figure it out again and started getting back to those results, fighting for wins, in the top 3, in the top 5. And it was good. It just, unfortunately, that mid-season lull didn't do us too good for championship standings.
Teague, have you ridden the bike yet, or have you ridden a Suzuki GSXR 750 yet?
I've got a bunch of time on a GSXR 600 that was Team Hammer built. So Scott Bryety, one of my, he's like a father to me, but he had a Team Hammer built GSX 600 from Chris Ulrich, and I got a chance to ride it a bunch in 2021. And so I kind of understand the Suzuki, how it works. But luckily, back in, what was that, early October at the Wera GNF race, I got an opportunity to ride Team Hammer's GSXR 750 for 4 or 5 laps. And man, it was amazing. I got on the bike and it reminded me of my SV, and it's a feeling I've missed all year. The front end feel on those bikes and how they handle is, second to none. And I got off the bike. I gave it back to Chris. He goes, "How do you like it?" I said, "It's perfect." And he says, "I know." And he walked away with the bike.
That sounds like Chris. Just that look on his face. Yeah, I know.
Yeah. So it was really cool to ride that bike. And, my immediate feeling while riding it was, man, I can go win some races on this thing exactly how it is. And that was huge, and you can't say that a lot about, you jump bike to bike. Everyone's just a little bit different, but, I jumped on this bike I'd never ridden before, and, someone else's setup. And immediately I said to myself, I can win on this thing. And that was huge confidence booster going into this super sport season.
That's cool. How well do you know your teammate Tyler Scott?
Actually, I don't really know him too well. He's I know he's from Pennsylvania, which isn't too far from me.
Right.
But we've really never met. And I think we're kind of similar in a way. I try to be sociable at racetracks, but 80% of the time I'm just trying to lock in and focus on what I have to do. And I think he's more or less the same. But yeah, no, I'm sure testing coming up shortly, I'll be able to meet him, get to know him. And I think I saw a post, he's down here in Florida training a little bit, but yeah, I'm looking forward to get to know him and working together.
That's funny, Teague. That's a very apt description. You guys are kind of similar. He he's a little bit reserved, but if you talk to him, he's got a fire that burns in him, obviously on the track, and you can see when he's off the track, and we know that about you. But you're the same way. You're fairly reserved, but you're always very friendly to fans and anybody else. And Tyler's the same way too. You just have to talk to him. It's no big deal, but I think there's a smoldering in both of you guys. It's kind of interesting. It'll be fun to see how you guys work together on things. So, do you think it's going to be a situation where you guys will share things back and forth?
I hope so.
Yeah.
He seems like a nice kid. Like I said, I've never met him, unfortunately, but he comes off as kind of similar guy to me. So
Right.
hopefully we can work together a little bit. And what he did in his rookie season in Supersport was amazing. So I'm hoping I can replicate that. But I mean, I'm sure he learned a ton last year, and hopefully we can work together and share a little bit of knowledge, and that'll move us both forward.
Yeah, and you mentioned testing. Now, I don't think we're sharing anything that's too incredibly top secret, but I know that Attack Performance has kind of set up a series of tests at Button Willow this offseason, and they've invited any and every team that wants to go out there and test. And I do know from working recently a little bit with Kaylee Yakoff that she's going to be going out to Button Willow early February, and I think she's participating in that test as well. So since obviously you need to get on the bike and ride it, and I would imagine Tony's got to get on his super bike, are you guys going to be going to that test at Button Willow in early February?
I'm not too sure. I haven't been given any testing details as of right now.
Okay.
I know Daytona's coming up in, I mean, what do we got? 6 weeks left. So I don't know. I'm assuming in the next 2 or 3 weeks, we'll be going somewhere. Not sure where that is or when that is, but like you said, got to get on the bike once before the season.
Hey, Paul, I couldn't even catch him. I don't know if he actually knows or he doesn't know, but at least he wouldn't say anything. So
Right. I was thinking when you were talking about how quiet or pretty quiet Tyler is and also Teagg, it's going to be an interesting truck because they're going to have two guys speaking Spanish and two guys not really speaking.
Yeah.
So you got a pretty good chance of learning Spanish because you can just sit there and absorb it all.
Yeah, this is true. Google Translate's going to be my best friend.
There you go. So let's talk. You're obviously doing the Daytona 200, and that'll be your first, I guess, race on the bike. Is that
right?
That's got to be an important race for a kid like you, right? I mean, it's got some prestige, and it's back, and MotoAmerica's doing it, and it's growing. Is that a race you're excited for?
Yeah. Daytona is super important to me. I used to grow up going to the Daytona 200 with my dad and his friends, and they would always do it every year. And it's just a really cool race, we got 10 rounds in the MotoAmerica series, and they're all pretty similar. You got 2 races for, each premier class, and no pit stops or anything. But Daytona, they're throwing a 57 lap race at you. You got to go around the track for 200 miles. So you got pit stops, you got more crew. It's just different, and it's really cool. I think Daytona's probably one of my favorite tracks in the whole country, and I've got a lot of time there, so I'm really looking forward to that race. I was racing with Sean Kelly when he did it for Team Hammer a few years ago, and I'm really looking forward to riding around that place on a Suzuki. So
it's also probably in many ways, it's probably a good thing to get that Daytona 200 under your belt, get a lot of miles, but yet not have it actually count for the championship. So if you don't have a good week, or if you spend the week learning or whatever, at least it doesn't, you still go to Atlanta with a fresh start.
Right. I mean, like you said, there's no points involved, so there's not too much to lose, but there's a half decent payout at the end of the race that we're trying to go for.
That's true.
Hey, Teagg, so I want to clarify something for people that may or may not know. And I know I've joked with you about this in the past. So the former crew chief for Cameron Bobier from a few years ago, Rick Hobbs, is from the Yukon, and he is our race director now. And I know you've talked to him, I know he's not your father, so when you mention your father racing, it's not Rick Hobbs. But I do want to ask you about your dad, and this is kind of a little bit for my own benefit. So for the listeners, sorry, you guys, I got to digress for a minute here. Just because I grew, I lived for quite a while in that area, as Paul probably gets sick of me talking about, but there were a lot of riders that raced in the Loudon Road Racing Series, and I can't say that I remember your dad's name. Or Hobbs, but did he race with guys like Mark Smith or Scott Greenwood or Charles Schwinard or those guys?
Yeah, he actually went to high school with Scott Greenwood, and yeah, they grew up having like a little feud because one thought their dirt bike was faster and the other thought their dirt bike was faster, but no, yeah, my dad just did local club scene stuff in the lightweight classes, and he just he did it for fun, and he was taking me to the track when I was 2 years old. So but yeah, no, him and Scott Greenwood, they go way back, and Scott's a great guy. I talk to him every time I go up there, and he's a good dude.
I think that's probably why I didn't know, because it's funny, I forget, and I mentioned this to you recently. It kind of is amazing to me that you're only 20 years old. I mean, it seems like we've known you and you've been racing for quite a while. So when I asked you the other day how, and I should have known it, but I asked you how old you were, and when you said 20, I was like, and you're right. I mean, I think of Scott Greenwood, honestly, as being a kid who was kind of young when he started winning at Loudon, but yet he had an older brother, Billy, who I know. Right. But these guys like Mark Smith and those guys are like Shane Narbonne is Shane Narbonne around your dad's age?
No, okay. He's probably, I think my dad, he's about to turn 50. I think Shane's in his low 30s.
Okay. Sorry, Shane.
Yeah.
He's aged him 20 years.
Yeah.
I just turned 20 a few weeks ago, and it's kind of heavy hitting. Like, I'm getting old. Still. Yeah.
It's heavy hitting for us too. So I want to ask you about, let me phrase this the right way. And I think you know where my heart is, so I'm not going to misstep with this, or if I do, I think you know where I'm going. I want to talk to you about your riding. You are a go-getter. I don't know if I want to go so far as to say you're an aggressive rider, but you race to win. Let me put it that way. Always have, and it's served you well in your career. How would you describe your racing? Is that pretty accurate?
Someone just asked me this a few days ago. I describe it as, when I'm alone, say in qualifying or practice, or, if I happen to be riding alone in a race, I try to ride as smooth as I can. But when an opportunity arises in a race, when someone leaves a door open, or it's the last few laps and they've been holding you up in one sector, you're better in the other, I'll take every opportunity I can to get in front of them. At the end of the day, Robin's racing, right?
Right. Yeah, I mean, it is all part of it. And I mean, that's how you get to the front. And, I know the fans love it. We know we love it. Wayne Rainey loves it when the guys mix it up and make things happen. And the Supersport class is a pretty intense class. It proved to be last year with the riders that were in it, and the riders are going to be in it this year. And Twins Cup for sure is that way. And I think you've obviously experienced a lot of that. Those guys absolutely go for it too. But Supersport's another level up from there. So I'm sure it's going to be a challenge for sure. Even against your teammate. And you've got Xabi Flores from Europe coming over to race on that Ducati V twin that's been proven. Obviously Josh Hayes is going to be coming back, and he's going to be trying to break that record that he's tied with Miguel Duhamel on at 86 all-time wins. So the class is stacked, and it's cool that you're going to be in with that group. You must be absolutely licking your chops to get out there and mix it up with these guys, aren't you?
You scared him now, Sean.
No, I think I got him. I think he's going to run through a wall now. Do I have you motivated, Teague?
No, you're good. So I work with my dad and my brother, and man, I hear it, 14 hours a day about all these crazy guys I'm about to be going, racing, and yeah, no, I'm used to it. I mean, at this point, nothing really phases me. I just keep on my grind and keep doing what I got to do. But no, there's a lot of talent coming to the super sport class this year. It's really cool. Ducati for the past few years has been bringing European riders over to ride their super bike, and for them to be bringing a European guy over to ride super sport, that's pretty cool, if you ask me. But yeah, going against Josh Hayes. I remember it's like 2 or 3 years ago, my first run at the Daytona 200. I in qualifying or something, I went across the start finish line with Josh Hayes to my right and Danny Eslick to my left, and we were all almost touching shoulders. And I was whatever 17 years old, and I had to pull in. I was shocked. Those guys were my idols growing up, and I just went across the stripe at 170 miles an hour with them. And but no, I luckily started to be a little bit more sociable and started to get to know some guys that I'm racing against. So I think that big weight on the shoulders racing against these guys, it's been getting a little bit lighter, the more racing I do.
So another thing I want to ask you about, I will, in out of respect for Vision Wheel M4 ECSTAR Suzuki, not mention the brand, but I know in recent times you have been on a 1000cc bike a couple of times, including up at Loudon, which is a crazy big bike to be riding around that track. But I thought maybe you were going to make the step up, the move up to stock 1000 or possibly even super bikes. So and you've got the size. Have you been riding that 1000 or a 1000 at all lately? And do you think a bigger bike can help you to when you ride the super sport bike?
They're definitely a lot different, but when you go from the 1000 to, say a 600 or a twins bike, they start to feel like a toy. So it helps in that aspect. You feel like you can throw the bike around a little bit better, but yeah, I don't know. I really wanted to be in the super sport category this year. I was riding my 1000 at the end of last year a little bit, and doing a little bit of testing on that RSV 1100 Aprilia. But yeah, no, going into the off season, I really wanted to make the jump to super sport, and I really wanted it to be on a Suzuki. So taking this opportunity with Vision Wheel M4 ECSTAR Suzuki, it's a dream come true. Maybe there's some 1000 opportunity down the road with that team. So, I got to start small, get on a 750, try to prove myself in super sport. And yeah, no, there's a lot of long-term opportunity with that team. I mean, they've been around for, over 25 years. So they've got a super bike program, they're open to doing stock 1000 stuff. So it's just a good stepping stone, jump into super sport, get to know the team a little bit, work with them some more.
Yeah, and I mean they've definitely proven that they've brought up younger riders and they've kind of taken them through the ranks a little bit for sure and helped them along. So it's good to kind of get in that, I guess, quote academy, the Team Hammer Academy a little bit.
Right.
I want to ask you about the difference between since you've ridden a GSXR 600 quite a bit and have been on the 750. Do the two bikes feel any different at all?
Really, they're a little different. I think I need a little bit more time on a 750 to give you a more detailed answer.
Okay.
But when I did get on it for those 4 or 5 laps, it's a little bit more crispy on the throttle from 0 to 15% throttle. And oh, sorry about that. Yeah, at initial throttle, it hits just a touch harder. It's got a little bit more torque down low. But other than that, it's the same chassis and the same suspension. So the handle's really good, just like the 600 does.
I've heard it jumps off the corners pretty well. That's one of its good features. Would you agree with that? I know it's early days for you, but
Yeah, and you can kind of see it if you watch. I remember I was watching at Barber. There were a few GSXR 600s out there with the 750s, and when they ride together, you can see the first initial drive out of a corner, the 750 takes, just one or two bike links out of it. And, it's a big difference when you string that over the course of a, 1.5 mile racetrack.
So this year you're going to have obviously a dedicated crew. That team is serious with regard to crew chiefs and everything so and so down the line. And I don't know if that's something that you've had in full to this point in your career. So how are you with working with a crew and with setup? Are you the type of rider that if they say, do you like this better or that better? Or are you a little bit more precise in being able to mechanically talk to them about what you want or what the bike's doing? Or is it more a feel thing for you?
I like to think I'm pretty detailed about what needs to be done. I grew up working on bikes, and that's what I did before I started riding. I was just working on bikes, working on cars. So I think I have a pretty good understanding for what's going on a motorcycle while I'm riding it, and I think I have a pretty good understanding of how I like a motorcycle to be set up. But luckily, every Team Hammer bike I've jumped on, it seems to be the perfect fit. So I don't think I'll have to do too much changing.
That's cool. That's interesting. And we'll find out later. I think I talked to you this the other day. You don't really know who your crew is going to be yet, but I'm sure it's being put together. Is that the plan?
Yeah, we're trying to figure that out right now. Still unsure, who the crew chief's going to be and a few other details, but we're working on that right now, and should have some more answers shortly.
So how do you feel about you've raced Daytona, you're going to race it again this year. How do you feel about the fact that we've got the two additional, as we call them, extended races, the one at Barbara and Laguna? We don't know the length, but it's going to have a required pit stop for a certain amount of time that has to be determined yet. But do you welcome a couple of more, quote, pit stop races beyond Daytona?
Yeah, I think it's a cool idea, especially with those races being, in the middle of the season. It kind of spices some things up. Like you said, we don't know exactly how long those races are going to be yet, so there's a lot of questions behind that and a lot of mystery. But depending on how that plays out, I think it can be a really, really cool thing, and maybe it moves forward into years to come.
Well, Sean, I think I don't know if you have much more for him. He's obviously a well-spoken kid. He's smart. I'm really looking forward to watching him race. I think it's a great opportunity for him and also for the team. As you said, they're pretty good with working with young guys and kind of pushing them through the different stages of their career. So it should be a lot of fun. And yeah, Teague, we're pleased that you were able to join us today. I know it was pretty short notice, and it's kind of it's nice and timely since you just did the deal. So thanks for that, Sean. I probably think you have a little bit something to say about maybe some corner workers.
Yeah, I actually going to mention the corner workers, but I got another little thing I want to mention. But Teague, I want to thank you for being on, and we both wish you good luck. We're really thrilled about the fact that you're going to be on that team, and we expect and hope for big things from you. So
yeah, thank you guys for having me on. So it's always a good time. I think the last time we did this was this time last year. So it was it's good to talk to you guys again. And like I said, thank you.
Now you're a factory star.
yeah, something like that.
That's right. So Teague, I'm going to talk a little bit about corner workers, but I want to get your perspective. Basically, at the end of our podcast, I try to let everybody know to go on MotoAmerica Volunteers Facebook page and get connected to sign up to be corner workers certainly starting at Daytona, but at all our rounds. And as our chief marshal says, David Hawley, we can't ever have enough people helping. So he's never experienced a situation where he's turned anybody away. In fact, the more the merrier all the time. And it goes from picking up bikes to being on the grid to doing things even around the paddock involved with that whole thing and safety. So what's your perspective on corner workers? I'm sure you love them as much as we do. And you don't want to meet them because generally it's when they're going to pick your bike up, but it's good that they're there. Am I right?
Yeah. Unfortunately, I've gotten up close and personal with them and in the dirt gravel traps and stuff like that. But you know, they're always really nice people, and like you said, they volunteer their time, their effort. You know, they pay to get themselves there. It's really cool what they do for the sport. You know, and you know we can't go ride our motorcycles without them. So, you know, when you meet them, they're always really cool, down to earth people, and you know they just love the sport. They love motorcycles. They love racing. So, you know, the people that volunteer their time to do this, it's you know more appreciated than they know.
So I want to change the subject just real quick. So thanks again, Teagg. I just want to mention a few weeks ago, we had put this on our social media, and a lot of you probably saw this, that Andrew Wheeler had passed away, a beloved photographer from around. He was from England, but he lived in this country for a long time, and is most recently lived in Austin, Texas. But he shot a lot of photos of MotoGP guys, some amazing stuff. Just got some angles and shots and color that you wouldn't see from anybody else. And he was in our paddock, and we'd see him around, and he always had a smile on his face. I know Paul knew him well as well. And I just wanted to mention that there is a service for him on January 28th, which is that it's tomorrow. Okay, so it's on Saturday at 3 p.m. and it's at King Tears Mortuary in East Austin, Texas. But the good thing about this is that they're going to have a live feed, so you can watch the service, and I'm sure a lot of people are going to be there to eulogize and say great things about what Andrew meant to them personally, and meant to people in the paddock, and meant to racing in general. So I just wanted to mention that King Tears Mortuary, if you Google it, they have a website. It's in East Austin, Texas. But again, there's going to be a live feed and an online service that you can watch, so you can tune in if you'd like to, and give your thoughts and prayers to Andrew and his family. So, you know, Godspeed to him again. It's sad that we lost him this soon, and he was a tremendous guy.
Yeah, thanks for that, Sean.
Yeah. So we'll wrap up there, but great again, Teagg, for having us on, and Paul, we'll do it again next week.
Yes, we will. Bye, guys. Have a good weekend.
All right. See ya.
Thanks, guys.